finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder to wit Dominic Russo.
Is the case of Mackenzie Shirilla. In a tense courtroom scene, a 19-year-old is sitting with an anxious, pale face and trembling hands, waiting for Judge Nancy to give her final verdict.
Mackenzie, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. It's up to you. Okay? You can sit if it's more comfortable, whatever's better for you.
The families of God and Davia, I'm so deeply sorry.
The case shocked Strongsville, Ohio, where Mackenzie Shirilla stands still as she is accused of multiple serious charges. She was charged with murder, felonious assault, and aggravated vehicular homicide. The focus of this case was the deaths of two people, her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and a friend, Davian Flanagan, which prosecutors say was under intentionally caused circumstances.
Shirilla, guilty of murder to wit Dominic Russo in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.02A is charged in count 1.
Which prosecutors say was under intentionally caused circumstances. It was a quiet Sunday morning on July 31st, 2022, until tragedy struck around 6:15 a.m. Near Progress and Alameda, through Strongsville, Mackenzie was behind the wheel of her Toyota Camry as it was going well over 100 miles per hour when it veered off the road and rammed into the building at ridiculous speed, police reports say. Sadly, 24-year-old Dominic Russo and 19-year-old Davian Flanagan were also pronounced dead at the scene. Prosecutors alleged as the investigation continued that this wasn't an accident, but a deliberate act. The crash, based on evidence and analysis, had elements of a pattern which, according to the prosecution, indicated intent, not just careless driving. This was tragic, as Shirilla faced charges that could change her future forever. As the judge announced her life sentence, Shirilla went quiet, with trembling hands and constant tears on her face, showing her guilt for the crime she had committed. Case 2.
16-year-old girl convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for killing her mother and the attempted murder of her stepfather.
A 15-year-old, Carly Gregg, emotionally listens as the judge announces her life sentence. She breaks down while her fate is sealed. Next is the shocking case of Carly Gregg, living in Rankin County, Mississippi, who was convicted of a heinous crime. She faced 3 charges: first-degree murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. This case has left everybody stunned as this young girl killed her mother, Ashley Smiley, and attempted to kill her stepfather, Heath Smiley. On Friday, September 20th, Carly's actions made a lonely house into a bloody scene. According to the court records and evidence in court, including chilling CCTV footage inside her family's home, Gregg killed her mother, Ashley. It didn't end there. The scene remained horrific. Heath Smiley, Gregg's stepfather, was led into the house soon after and met with the same sort of life-threatening attack as she tried to kill him too.
I need you to talk to me. What is your son wearing?
He was in jeans and a grayish t-shirt. He's got short, brandish hair.
But Heath was able to flee and called authorities after being wounded, and Gregg was then arrested. Defense attorneys tried to convince the jury that Gregg was not in the right mental state at the time of the crime, but throughout the trial, the evidence was too conclusive. CCTV footage and physical evidence from the scene conspired to paint a clear picture of what happened, with little room for doubt on her part. The courtroom went silent as the verdict was read by the judge. After considering Carly's mental health and other things that might have led to this murder, she would get a life sentence for her 2 charges and a 10-year jail for the 3rd one.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Mass and Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
After hearing the sentence, Gregg went visibly emotional, realizing how much she'd screwed herself. And the reality behind the bars began to sink in. She started to sob and cry, refusing to accept what had just happened. Case 3.
One of the teens charged with their Spanish teacher's murder in Fairfield will be sentenced tomorrow.
two teens, Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodale, sit in their court trials awaiting their verdicts. Both look wiped, especially Miller, with Goodale's nose bleeding and a flushed, teary face, while Miller is calm and detached. This is the raw moment that states the chilling reality of the case. At number 3, we have the tragic case that has shaken Iowa. Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodale both are facing life prison terms for murdering their Spanish teacher, Noema Graber. In November 2021, a grade gone wrong ended in the death of a teacher and a school that was largely dismissing the death after her students went on a rampage. Before sentencing, both young men spoke to the court, apologizing in very different ways. Willard Miller had plotted with his friend Jeremy Goodale to carry out a deadly plan because he was frustrated with a bad grade, prosecutors said. Both these students had come up with a fatal way to get back at their teacher. Chilling testimony says Miller approached Miss Graber wearing a mask and yellow gloves. The haunting moment came just as she looked at him, staring as he reportedly pulled down his mask and smiled. What followed was brutal. She was hit 5 times with a baseball bat by the two teens.
I've had time to think on what to say, and I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry.
Both gave apologies in the courtroom before their verdict of a life sentence. Jeremy went all emotional and tearful and was seen as guilty for what he did, whereas Miller, on the other hand, was very cold while delivering the speech. He seemed much too rebellious. Both of them later got life sentences as a consequence of their brutality. And that is all for today's video. These tragic cases demonstrate what violent things happen when teens become aggressive. These stories are examples of how impulsive actions can lead to mass shock and premeditated plans, and how guidance, responsibility, and mental health awareness for youth are so important. If you enjoyed the crime stories in the video, hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you for watching. See you in the next.